do today is to give some insights into the price of carbon and then offer some thoughts about the national strategy from a carbon markets perspective. The value of carbon is central to any climate change discussion. We all know that the Kyoto Protocol conferred a price on greenhouse gas emissions. This price, either expressed through a traded instrument or tax, is important for a number of impacts. For businesses, the price of carbon will inform a range of investment decisions. For participants in trading schemes, the price of carbon may also give rise to a liability. And the price of carbon will also impact CSR aspects from the point of view of offsetting costs. Governments will also use the price of carbon as a policy tool, for example, to set carbon-linked levy rates and parameters. And indirectly, of course, this will impact end users and influence behaviour and make positive contribution to fighting climate change. That's the theory. The carbon market is quite interesting because the supply is fixed on a long-term basis, but the demand is fairly volatile in the short term. Many people mistakenly believe carbon is a commodity market, but of course there's no physical delivery. More precisely, it's a traded government-issued permit to emit carbon. Consequently, the trading dynamics of carbon are based around both market and policy factors, which I've set out here. So the top part concerns the market, particularly energy prices and economic factors, and then the policy factors below. I think of particular note is the way that the price is heavily influenced by both national and international policies, and I suppose in reality we could have put a hatch line up there from the environmental policies up to renewables, for example. And I think also, additionally, given the dominance of the power sector in the equation, policies around renewable energy are critically important and should be given great emphasis in the formulation of our own national climate change policy. Carbon price is volatile. This is the price action from 2008 to 2002, representing phase 2. The formatting. The steep fall in prices was prompted by the global financial crisis. This actually mirrored the drop in fossil fuels, which went, as you remember, from $147 down to about $40 a barrel. This muted recovery was constrained really by the Eurozone debt crisis, and more recently, the slide in prices has been as a result of excess liquidity, which has arisen since most installations have accumulated surplus credits due to the economic malaise in Europe. Companies with a surplus can carry them forward to phase 3, which reduces short-term demand and also puts downward pressure on demand in subsequent periods. So whilst phase 3 promises to tighten many operational aspects to the trading scheme, the prognosis for the carbon market price at the moment looks poor. Active price support is needed, and there are several options being discussed at present. A price floor, such as has been introduced in the UK, market intervention through a centralised body. People are talking about the EIB taking that role on. Paradoxically, the EIB has been charged with delivering the remnants of the new entrant reserve, some 300 million tonnes of carbon, into the carbon market, monetising them to pay in part for the new energy efficiency directive, which actually adds excess liquidity to the market and puts further downward pressure on prices. And I suppose the third element is adjusting the allocation for phase 3, removing the overhang. This is the so-called set-aside debate. Policy certainty is also an imperative. I think that's been absent largely to date in the markets. Traded markets wilt under uncertainty, as we've seen from the price action. And I think policy certainty needs to extend internationally too. I think I'd like to see a lot more clarity, a lot more quickly about some of the new mechanisms that were being discussed in Durban. And lastly, I think the linking of the various global trading schemes which are emerging is very important, because the key element in terms of the international climate change fight is a global price of carbon, a single global price. So, in the absence of any changes, the ability of Ireland or any other country to implement an effective climate change strategy is impaired. The inset graph here projects the price of carbon out to 2040. As you can see, or maybe not those at the back, trust me, it's sub 30 euros a tonne. And then if we consider the marginal abatement curve for Ireland produced by the SEAI, we can see that at 30 euros a tonne, the carbon price is too low to generate cost-effective investments in large abatement technologies, things like WAVE and CCS. I want to turn now to carbon in the context of the national strategy. Currently, we're in the midst of two crises. Globally and nationally, we're experiencing the worst economic crisis for a generation, and in addition, climate change represents an enormous environmental challenge. I believe that carbon is the pivotal mechanism which links economic and environmental crises, and it's carbon that can be used to control the rate of climate change, and through those measures employed to meet aggressive targets, provide a firm basis for economic recovery. So for Ireland, can we use the current state of play in the carbon markets to meet, to our advantage, to meet our climate change commitments while employing strategies to boost our domestic economy? Previous government committed to purchasing offsets from flexible mechanisms to the tune of around 270 million euros a year. And we can see that the fall in CER prices has increased the purchasing power of that sum some 3.5 times. Could this be used to meet our obligations in the short term, leaving us to craft a climate change strategy which focuses upon elements such as energy efficiency and renewable energy generation, which have more tangible and sustainable benefits in terms of the wider Irish economy? This would also be consistent with the trends in Europe, where traded carbon is becoming less sensitive to abatement or adaptation issues and more closely associated with energy security of supply. Alternatively, using the lessons learned from the EU ETS, should we initiate a domestic offset scheme for the non-traded sector? Should or could we use this scheme as an exemplar and export the know-how to schemes in developing nations? Or should our focus be more on developing leading positions in the newer areas, such as forestry or shipping? In conclusion, the price of carbon is central to a national climate change strategy. Structural shortcomings in the market need to be addressed in order to ensure that the core principle of the polluter paying yields real progress towards a low-carbon economy, and Ireland needs to be a vocal supporter of these reforms. Carbon presents opportunities to Ireland in the formulation of our strategy. A bold and imaginative approach will ensure that the dual outcomes of meeting our obligations and positioning Ireland for a period of sustainable economic growth are achieved. Thank you very much.